5 nations, 1 button, how World War II gave birth to the UN veto powers. The power that can stop the world, 1 raised hand, 1 word, veto, and, global action collapses instantly, wars paused, sanctions blocked, justice delayed. This is not movie fiction, this is real power born from the ashes of World War II, and still shaping everything from modern wars to global politics today. Welcome to the hidden mechanics of the world's most controversial authority, the veto powers. This is the historical factor, and today we're breaking down who really runs the global table, how they earned that seat, and why this system still survives decades later. World War II rewrote global power. World War II didn't just redraw borders, it shattered the old global order completely. Europe was exhausted, empires were broke, cities were rubble, over 60 million people were dead, and, well, one thing was painfully clear. The world could not survive another global war without a system to control it. That failure already had a name, the League of Nations. It talked a lot, it enforced nothing. When aggression rose in the 1930s, the League stood frozen. World War II was the result. So when the war finally ended, the victors didn't want a debating club. They wanted control. Real control. In 1945, the United Nations was created with one core mission: prevent another world war. But here's the uncomfortable truth most people don't hear. The UN was never designed to be equal, it was designed to be stable. Stability in the eyes of the victors meant giving the most powerful nations special privileges so they would never walk away from the system. That's where the veto came in. 5 countries were given permanent seats on the United Nations Security Council: the United States, the Soviet Union, now Russia, the United Kingdom, France, and China. These were not random picks. Every one of them played a decisive role in defeating the Axis powers. They had massive militaries, global influence, and most importantly, the ability to restart a world war if ignored. The veto was the price of keeping them inside the system. The Security Council has 15 members, but only 5 have veto power. If even one of those 5 says no, a resolution fails instantly. It doesn't matter if the other 14 vote yes. The motion dies. This includes sanctions, military interventions, peacekeeping missions, and even investigations into war crimes. 1 country, 1 word, total shutdown. That's not democracy, that's leverage. Here's the hard truth. Without the veto, the United Nations would likely collapse. The veto was designed to prevent direct conflict between major powers. During the Cold War, the United States and the Soviet Union vetoed each other constantly, but they didn't fight each other directly. That alone may have prevented World War III. The system trades fairness for survival. Since 1945, vetoes have been used, hundreds of times. The Soviet Union and Russia lead historically. The United States follows closely. China, France, and the United Kingdom use it less. But when they do, it really matters. Most vetoes, block resolutions related to wars, allies, or strategic regions. The veto is rarely about morality. It's about national interest. Critics argue the veto is outdated, that the world of 1945 no longer exists, that Africa, Latin America, and much of Asia have no permanent voice, that global justice is held hostage by 5 nations protecting their own interests. And, well, they're not wrong. There have been calls to abolish the veto, to expand permanent seats, to limit veto use in cases of genocide. None of it has passed. Why? Because the veto powers would have to approve the change, and that will never happen. Here's something, rarely said out loud. The veto isn't really about peace. It's about preventing powerful nations from being forced into actions they flat out oppose. If the United Nations could overrule the United States, Russia, or China, those nations might just leave entirely. And, well, a global system without the most powerful military forces is just another League of Nations waiting to fail. So the veto stays, not because it's fair, but because, honestly, it works. Every modern global crisis in some way runs through the veto system. Wars, sanctions, ceasefires, humanitarian aid. Nothing significant happens without passing this gate, really. Understanding veto power means understanding why some conflicts drag on for decades. Why some invasions are punished and others, well, ignored. Why the United Nations sometimes looks powerful and other times completely powerless. It's not confusion, it's design. The veto powers are not a bug in the system, they are the system, born from World War II, forged by destruction, maintained by fear of what happens if it collapses. 5 nations, 1 button, and the ability to stop the world in its tracks. That's not just history, that's the present. If this breakdown sharpened how you see global power, make sure to subscribe to the Historical Factor. Share this video with someone who still thinks the world runs on fairness alone. History doesn't lie, and here, we make sure it speaks loud.